Hello, everyone. Welcome to the new episode of XenTegra on Air podcast series. I'm your host, Indrajit Purpure, Director Solution Engineering with XenTegra Private Limited. And I have my friend and like field CTO from IGEL, Simon Townsend. Hey, hi, Simon. How are you?
Good morning. How are you? Yes, I'm very good.
I'm
Very
good.
good.
I'm good.
End of a busy week, actually.
Oh, same,
Um,
same here. Same with me.
it's amazing. I was saying to you just before we started this call, I've I just seem to have been in more and more customer meetings this week than uh, perhaps more than normal, but that's not a bad thing, right? Lots of organizations at the moment are sort of trying to work on what their 2024 strategy is going to look like. And yeah, it's been very interesting. I've had meetings with Microsoft, um, speaking to organizations in the financial space, in local government, central government space, and also in the healthcare space. So yeah, it's been a good week, but thank God I'm not sure what day this goes out, but it's Friday today, so I'm
Yeah.
very happy I've got a couple of days off over the weekend. And you, have you been busy?
Yes, even this week was quite busy for me, and like a couple of very good meetings, like couple of customer meetings specifically to end user computing, like where I got a chance to speak about IGEL and like other complementing solutions, right? Controller, parallels, and like so many other things like we discussed. And there is like customers even like thought of evaluating a couple of solutions I talked about, and like we are starting POCs like in coming weeks. So it was kind of a good sign to start new thing or engagement with those customers.
Yeah,
Then there was a meeting with like Parallels, as IGEL is kind of IGEL is having a long, old relationship with Parallels, right? Parallels solution is already integrated in IGEL. So IGEL, sorry, Parallels team was in India, is in India this week and
nice.
like a few more days, and they are coming in a grand way in Indian market. We are trying to, they are focusing on Indian market. So there are a couple of discussions happening, and even they want to collaborate with us because they are like kind of ecosystem partners with IGEL, and like even XenTegra is tied up with Parallels very well in other regions. So there are a lot of discussions, doing a lot of activities together. So maybe even in any of the upcoming episodes, we may invite one of the Parallels representative as well to talk about their uh, overall solution and what is the strategy for Indian market. So
Yeah,
yes, those things are there, and like yes, it was a good week. Uh,
I think that's a good idea actually, Introduce, which is we should probably we should get a few more guest speakers on this podcast, right? Because you know, I mean, I think you and the listeners know I use IGEL almost every day. I've actually just taken ownership of a new HP laptop. Actually, I think it's an HP 645. Don't quote me on that, but I think if you look at HP T645 laptop, this is a beautiful machine. Comes pre-installed with IGEL on it. Um, and for the most part, most of my working day, I'm actually in my web browser, checking my email, working on PowerPoint slides, looking at spreadsheets. I'll jump on a Zoom call, I'll jump on a Teams call, etc., etc. Most of that work can actually be done via a web browser or via sort of like a unified communications tool. But if I do need access to a corporate application that sits somewhere else behind the firewall, or one of those applications that can't be run in the web browser, I'll fire up, in our case, an AVD session. So we fire up an AVD, I get an AVD desktop, and then I've got my Windows desktop, and that's got all of the applications I could possibly have. But to really make this work, right? And when we think about how are we going to deploy the workspace of the future in the most secure, cost-effective way, there is no one product, right? It's not just, you can't just deploy AVD. on its own. That's not a solution. You can't just deploy IGEL on its own. You can't fix everything with just deploying control up. And so, whether it's Parallels, whether it's Citrix, whether it's VMware, whether it's Control Up, whether it's IGEL, or whether it's any of the other partners in this ecosystem, the IGEL Ready program, as you
Yeah,
know, has about 120, I should say, different
yeah,
partners in it. And so it is about, and this is the thing that, XenTegra have been so good at doing. XenTegra are just experts when it comes to simplifying and providing a solution that can contain multiple vendors, right? You guys know how to package up the best tools to then create a solution and deliver that down. So I do, yeah. It's a long way of me saying, Injit, we should probably get some other ecosystem partners on this call,
yeah,
um, because they've got a lot to say. And you know, as I said, a customer is never deploying just one technology. Um, it's about, can you deploy technologies that are tried and tested and certified to work with each other, and that gives you the partner confidence to deliver them, and it also means the customer can deliver them in confidence as well. So
yeah.
yeah, we
And
should look to do that.
yeah, and overall purpose of starting this podcast series was same, right? We it was to create that awareness and help customers understand or find good solutions in the market for specific like problem statement or specific use case, and specifically in the end user computing space, right? So yeah, so the overall purpose was that, and let's start like in our upcoming episodes, maybe like
Yeah,
not maybe not every episode, but like alternate episode, at least we'll try to invite some guest speaker, and like we'll talk specifically on that technology and how
yeah,
IGEL works together with that particular technology. Maybe better together kind of a
yeah,
story we can
yeah.
talk about in that
Yeah.
those
The
kind of
the the
episodes.
other the other thing, Indrajit, that we should talk about, we can have this conversation offline and perhaps introduce it um, into one of the sessions, one of the podcasts in the future, is what's going on in the enterprise browser space as well,
Yeah,
right? I don't know whether you've spoken to sort of like Andy, your founder CEO recently, right? But there's a lot, and I know you guys are starting to look at that as well. But there's a lot going on in the enterprise browser space, and I think IGEL's going through a little bit of a rebranding exercise at the moment. You'll see some new branding come out as we get to the end of the year and go into January. But you know, you probably heard it here first. Expect us to really talk about how we are a operating system built for the enterprise, right? We're an operating system that is secure at its heart, and we're built to help people at work do work. Um, and a lot of those enterprise web browsers have got a very similar message, right? Which is, how do you allow access to enterprise applications in a secure way through just a web browser? And I actually think there's a great fit there if you think about it, right? uh, Secure enterprise OS, secure enterprise browser. That actually could be the future of work. You heard it here
uh,
first.
actually, I noted it down, right? For like maybe definitely we'll consider or we'll talk about this maybe in the upcoming episode, right? Or maybe in the next episode we'll talk specifically on it.
Yeah,
So
sure.
even like for us, like so you must have heard of solutions like you correctly said, right? There are a lot of solutions in that particular space. Like you must have, like even recently we are in couple of trainings. Like our team was in trainings with Island, for example, that they are into like that area, secured browser
Yeah,
solution, right? And there are a lot of solutions coming in that particular space. So
yeah, yeah,
let's
yeah.
in next episode maybe we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I'd
Okay,
love to.
so
That'd
I
be good.
think, yeah, so what should we talk about today? So I think we have covered a lot of things. We covered like majority of the things about IGEL, the security, part of sustainability, how IGEL OS is secured, how it helps to the uh, customers to access those specific workload on cloud, VDI workload. Then even we talked about end of life Microsoft operating systems, right? Or like other end of life operating systems, migrations, and so many things, right? We talked more about the technology problem statement or the specific use case. But as you being in that role, kind of a techno commercial role, you must be interacting with a lot of people, lot of customers in different verticals. So is it something there are specific verticals? Like there are a lot many verticals in the like verticals there, but are there any specific verticals where IGEL solutions fits well, or like specific IGEL USP or like IGEL feature functionality helps to that particular vertical? So which all
Yeah,
verticals you are more, or IGEL is focusing more, or like IGEL's solution fits well in those verticals. So
yeah,
I think we'll cover that, and maybe we'll talk about more, right, which use cases, so that it will help to our customers
yeah,
in those specific verticals in a great way. Yeah.
yeah. And I think it's an important topic to stop and discuss, right? I mean, technology is great. How the technology works, how it's secure, how it's sustainable, how we can do more with less, etc., etc. But actually, people need to, many of your listeners, your customers, right? They need to be able to relate to solutions. And, um, it's very easy for any vendor, right, to say, well, we work across all verticals. It's like, yeah, I
Standard
mean,
speak,
yeah,
majority of the
and the truth is that yeah, I can, I got an email in my Teams inbox this morning. We use Teams for collaboration, and someone pinged me and said, "Hey, have we got any customers in legal? Because we're talking to a solicitors, a lawyers firm at the moment." And the rest of the team came back and went, "Yes, this customer, this customer, this customer." But legal's not a common nor necessarily a focus of vertical for IGEL. That doesn't mean to say that we don't work in it. And I mean, horizontally, not talking about verticals, anyone that's got Citrix is a good candidate for IGEL. Anyone that does um, accesses their applications just via a web browser, good candidate for IGEL. But to your point, there are 4 or 5 key verticals that IGEL finds itself in, week out. Um, and they are number one, for healthcare, no doubt about it. If you look into the majority of um, UKI, German, Austrian, Switzerland, and North American healthcare organizations, number one, they're going to be using some form of VDI, Citrix and/or VMware. And number two, they're probably going to be either looking at IGEL or actually evaluating it. And so the main reason why an organization typically, or a healthcare organization would typically look at IGEL, first and foremost, is just clinicians, right? So nurses, doctors on the wards, delivering patient care, and a need to be able to move very, very quickly, in fact, and seamlessly from one patient to another, from one bed to another. And you
yeah,
start to look at the um, patient record applications that are used in healthcare, Epics and Cerner's and other EMR type of applications. And then you start to look at technologies that they need to use to enable that roaming to happen, like Improvata and the ability to tap and go, right? And so the ability that a nurse comes up to a workstation, taps their card, their ID card onto the workstation, it logs them on instantly into their own session. They then tap to log off, they then move on, they tap again. They need that application to roam, but they might need the
yeah,
patient record to change, right? So there's a huge amount of clever workflows that both IGEL, Improvata, Citrix, VMware, for instance, can put together. And I know you guys have done this a lot, right? Even down to the device that's being chosen, like looking at an LG device that's got a built-in RFID reader. When I was talking earlier about you guys being excellent at putting solutions together. This is a classic example of it. Going into a healthcare organization and addressing a particular use case and a challenge that people have, which is how do we deliver faster, better patient care? How do we make sure that we're secure, make sure that we're not giving the wrong drugs to the wrong patient, and that we've got the right patient record up? But how do we deliver that? Is that a workstation on wheels that follows people around and runs IGEL, not Windows on it? And because it's running IGEL, the battery pack lasts longer on it. And because it's on wheels, it's connected to Wi-Fi, and it's got an LG all-in-one device on it, and it's got no germs on it because the keyboard and the mouse and the monitor is, germ-free, for instance. All of this comes together to provide solutions. So healthcare is a big one, and you could put telehealth into that. You could put call centers into that as well. They all lend themselves really, really well to um, delivering the desktop via some form of desktop virtualization, and hence they all lend themselves very well to IGEL. Some of our biggest deployments are on that, and I'm talking 20, 30, 40, 50,000 seats in size, right? So that's a big
That's
one.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and it depends on where you go in the world as well, whether it's private healthcare, public healthcare. But sadly, some regions, um, the healthcare system doesn't have as much money as other regions, and you've still got applications that are out there that are connected to a clinical machine, and they might still be running Windows XP, they might be running Windows 7. you know um, what do you do? Do you spend a load of money on buying everyone a new laptop, or do you spend a load of money on buying a new scanner that's actually going to save people's lives?
Absolutely.
You're gonna do the second. So lots and lots of healthcare organizations have got pressure from a budget point of view. That's particularly true in the UK, where I live, as an example. In America, budget may not be as much of a problem, but security threats is a massive problem, right? They're constantly under threat from ransomware, etc. So yeah, VDI, desktop as a service, um, and IGEL really helps in healthcare. The second area is probably local government, central government, right? And now you're talking about lots more remote workers. How do you enable hybrid work? Some governments, at least across EMEA, are looking at reducing the amount of office space that they've got. So they're actually wanting to enable more people to work from home. They've got a huge number of applications. Typically, departments are very small in size. So you've got, someone that looks after, or a team of people that look after housing. You'll have a team of people that look after finance. You have a team of people that look after local parks, education, etc., etc. All of these have got hundreds of different types of applications that need to be deployed out, and trying to manage that deployment of applications in a traditional fat client environment is very, very difficult. So, and again, depending on where you are in the world, local government tends to be under pressure from an economic point of view. They're trying to make their money go further. So not having to buy new hardware in 2024 is an important topic to them at the moment. But then you've also got central government, and central government, you tend to be more into the thousands of users or tens of thousands of users, whether it's the Fed space in North America, whether it's central government in other parts of the world. Their number one priority tends to be security, and that again is a challenge, right? How do you take a preventative approach to securing an endpoint without it costing you a huge amount of money? And you start to get into lots of conversations then around, well, how do you enable secure remote work? You guys will be having conversations with them about things like NetScaler and secure connections and secure networks, for instance, and starting to have conversations about how they're now treating everybody in their organization as almost like a BYOD device, even though the device is not owned BYOD. Every device now is basically outside of the network. You need to treat every single device as though it is outside the network, regardless of whether it does come in or stays out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, healthcare number one. Then we go to government. Then I'd say finance. And in the finance space, I'd probably include all of the large banks. I'd include all of the large insurance companies, but then I'd also include a lot of asset management organizations and companies that do reinsurance. And what you find in that space is that there's lots of acquisitions that take place. So in the finance space, you'll suddenly find that, we know at the moment that UBS and Credit Suisse are merging together as an example, two big banks. But even further down, asset management banks that you and I have never heard of, insurance companies that me and you have never heard of, they are constantly acquiring other organization, companies that do pensions, right? Pension company A buys pension company B. And where acquisitions take place, you then end up with large numbers of employees having to come together, and employees from company A need to access applications in company B, and vice versa. Company B employees need to access applications from company A.
Yeah.
And you, that is a challenge. How do you take all of those applications? Bear in mind, in banking and finance, there's compliance, there's security risks, security concerns. How do you make all of those applications available to suddenly, overnight, 10,000 users suddenly are now part of your organization, and you have to deliver them the corporate desktop from the company that's acquired them?
Yeah.
VDI is perfect for that, right? You think about how Citrix deploys a workspace in a web browser, right? It's like tomorrow morning you're going to log on. You're a newly acquired organization. We need you to log on to this URL. You're going to have secure access to our corporate workspace. You're going to have access to files, the internet, web-based applications, and your virtual apps and desktops.
Yeah.
And so enabling that fast pace of acquisition, that can all be done by IGEL, right? It's like, okay, number one, I need it to be secure. Fine. I've got no idea. Like company B that we've just acquired, I don't know what their IT infrastructure like. I don't know what their IT's like. I don't know what devices they've got. They've all got Dells. We've all got HPs. We use Intune, they still use SCCM. I mean, it can get very, very complicated very, very quickly. So it's like, do you know what? A lot easier. Put IGEL on all those devices and allow those devices then to point back to your Citrix VMware type of environment and access the workspace that way. So
Yeah,
I think,
and
you know,
in this
sorry,
sector, right, sorry to interrupt. In this
no,
sector,
no,
right,
please.
BFSI, say banking, finance, insurance, and asset management companies, uh, the adaptation of media is even almost everywhere. Even I can see in India, majority of the like customers in this particular sector, they have already adapted. They're already using some kind of a VDI solution, right?
Hmm.
And with that, right, maybe yeah, I think with that to using it along with IGEL will be an added advantage, definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
And sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt. Maybe you can continue with
No,
your
no,
point.
no, no, no. It's good. It's good. If you don't interrupt me, Indrajit, then I go on for far too long, and the listeners get bored as well. So it's good, good that you interrupt. Um, the one thing you find in finance is obviously, there's a huge number of different applications, a huge number of different use cases. You've got traders. I mean, people always say to me, "How surely traders can't use iGel and Citrix." It's like, yes, they can. Well, doesn't the screen need to update in real time? And is it fast enough for all of the applications and the trades that need to happen? 100%. We're not in 1999 where, the screen was slowly updating. We're in 2023, and we can have voice and video conversations across a virtual desktop. We can definitely deploy trading applications, and we can do that on 4K monitors and have four of them plugged in and two of them turned around the wrong way, right? Whatever it might be. But back office staff, again, traders, remote branches that need access and don't have IT people there. The one thing you find with finances is they need access to all of the unified comms tools, right? So they'll be like, oh, we need you to support Zoom and WebEx and Teams, and then they've got a call center, and they need to support WebRTC, and they need to support the Genesis app and the Nice application, and all of these other, the Amazon call center as a service application. That actually is an interesting one. Anybody that's got a call center typically is a very good use case for IGEL and desktop virtualization as well. So call center as a service. And I'm in the middle of putting a document together at the moment, which really lists out, who are the top 5 or 6 call center as a service applications that we support both natively and through VDI. So the other thing you see in finance is security, but a lot of this comes down to authentication. And I think you know more about this than I do, Intrajit, but what I'm talking about here is conditional access and contextual access. This is a hot topic at the moment, particularly in finance, which is they don't just want to know who's logging on. They want to know who's logging on from what device and where they're logging on from and under what context. So yes, it's Simon Townsend. Yes, he's on an IGEL device. Yes, that IGEL device is being managed and has got a certificate on it and is up to date. Oh, and he's at home. Okay, fine. We'll let him in. Um, Different device, different day. Um, Different integrity checks come, don't let that person in. And so IGEL's done a load of work at the moment with, we're working on things like in-tune integration, conditional access, working with some key customers on that, but also on the Citrix side of things, like the Citrix endpoint analysis. So the Citrix EPA is now an application in our app portal, and that means you can actually start to integrate that as well. So that is a very, very exciting area, particularly as I said in finance. Um, Last one, I think I would say is probably retail. And if you think about retail, this makes a lot of sense. I think I'm even allowed to mention people like Luxottica or the Sunglasses Hut, right? Which you're probably familiar with. If you've ever gone into an airport and bought a pair of sunglasses from the Sunglasses Hut, you can have a look around the back of the till, and that device is going to be running IGEL. And pure and simply, lots and lots of retail organizations and hospitality for that matter, they use desktop virtualization and therefore IGEL to deploy their applications in their workspace, because what you tend to find is you've got very, very small branches or shops who, they need 1, 2, 3 computers in them. And they don't want to have to employ someone in IT to go down to that site and do all of that. So, if you go onto our website, you see, there's car dealerships, for instance, are in there. The Sunglasses Hut is the videos on our website as well. And there's a whole host of other very, very well-known large brands that sadly I can't necessarily reference who are using IGEL because they've just got, so many stores across so many different regions that it makes perfect sense to deploy a Windows desktop or applications through virtualization down to an IGEL device. IGEL's giving you remote management. You can secure shadow a device, you can take over it, you can reboot it, you can put it back to defaults, you can reconfigure tens of thousands of these things so easily. And the person that's driving that administration can be hundreds, if not thousands of miles away from where those retail stores are. So yeah, they're the 4 I would say. Introduce, healthcare, government, finance, retail. We do a little bit in manufacturing, but if you really start to think about remote workers, remote sites, organizations that are going through acquisitions, call center type of scenarios, you then start to get into conversations with customers around, okay, well, what peripherals do you need? How many people need headsets? How many people need to be able to sign and therefore a tablet reader? How many people need to be able to tap and go using the Improvata type of technology? How many people have got a funny keyboard, right? In retail and in finance, you may well find that they don't have a standard keyboard, right? They've got specialized keyboards that we need to be able to support. So very quickly, those use cases then come down to applications, to your point, then it comes down to peripherals. And that's really where actually the IGEL Ready program comes in, because it's all about how do we integrate all of these software vendors and all of these technologies into our operating system so that these vertical customers, just, the technology just works out of the box.
That's great. And I think thanks, like actually you covered those sectors specifically, like at least customers or like our listeners working in that particular segment, or like maybe as a user or as an administrator from the management side of it, they can at least think of IGEL as a solution. And you rightly mentioned those ecosystems. And like at the end, like considering the sectors, you mentioned those ecosystem partners 120 around 120 or like more than 120 ecosystem
Yeah,
partners. At the start of this podcast, even we talked about, and I think now with this, even we can like we talked about the verticals ecosystem partners. So maybe I think in coming episodes we should definitely like so see VDI or like workspace solutions. Those are kind of primary use case for IGEL, and majority of the customers and listeners know it very well. But along with them, right, maybe in our upcoming episodes we will even try to engage some ecosystem partners, and where we'll talk about like how IGEL and that and their solution work together for a customer,
yeah,
maybe kind of a case study, or like how it helped to that customer, and like how these two solutions work together well.
yeah,
Kind of conversations even we can do in our upcoming episodes,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, the devil is in the detail, and I'll say it again. You guys know this better than anyone. I saw a post from a very old friend of mine this week on LinkedIn, and it was talking about this concept of the Nirvana phone. Have you heard of the Nirvana phone? So it's the fact that the new iPhone has got a USB-C port on it, right?
Yeah.
And so I can now plug my iPhone into a dock. I can use a keyboard, a mouse, and put it on a screen, and I could connect into my Citrix virtual desktop environment. It's like, is this the Nirvana phone? Um, Sadly, I don't think it is. And the reason I don't think it is because of everything we've spoken about today, which is every single one of those use cases needs some form of additional application support or
Yeah.
peripheral support to make it work. And that's the difference between anybody can spin up a virtual desktop and connect to it, but actually delivering a solution that is integrated and delivers what the customer needs to actually be able to do their job, whether it is a headset, a card reader, whatever it might be, a dictation device. That's where the magic happens, and that's where that ecosystem becomes very, very important.
And as like we are now like almost like we recorded here to like we are about to complete 10 episodes very soon, right? We are like adding our episodes day by day. So maybe we can add those like ecosystem partners as well in our upcoming episodes, and which where we'll talk very specific, right? How correlation or like how that better together story works for customers, and like how we serve to our customers. And yeah, I think that's kind of a good way to go ahead.
Good.
And yeah, I think today it was a good session, like where we talked about like earlier we talked about specific to the product features and other specifications about IGEL, but now it is more related to industry sectors, those ecosystem partners, applications. It's good, right? Maybe we opened up a lot many other pages, and like conversation will go ahead on it now. Like, and maybe we can try to cover whatever is coming in new with IGEL. That again, you touched base. You talked about secured browser, so we opened a lot of new things in this particular episode, and slowly, like when that time will come, like we'll talk more about those specific use cases, specific products, and the ecosystem partners. With this, I think let's conclude today's episode. Thanks, Simon. Thanks for your time. Happy
My
weekend
pleasure.
ahead.
Yeah, and you.
Uh, let's thank you. Let's catch up next week. Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.